Welcome to Flourish, where we explore how to nurture, coach, and inspire the next generation for success and let their genius flourish. I'm your coach, Diane Planadin, and today we're talking about music and the vibe you get from music and what you can learn from music, the emotions that music really stirs inside of you, and most magically of all, what it does for your memory. Music throughout the ages has been a very integral part of our society, and I could not find through history, through culture, anyone who has not been impacted by music. I mean, think about it. Even the Buddhist monks hum a few bars, don't they? So, music has been around since the beginning of time, and it's just amazing that the emotion it brings out in people. You know, think about what moves you. What's your jam? You must have a favorite tune or two, and something that gets you singing or dancing, or just brings back a memory, you know? I still remember as a teenager, my jam was ABBA, and I'm so thrilled that they're still on the music scene today and actually pretty much a household name, so I'm hoping you know which band I'm talking about. ABBA was really, it was really important in my teenage years because that music was so inspiring. On Saturday nights, we would go to the roller rink, and that's really where they had the best music playing. And we would go for some fun and giggles and hang out and just, you know, gossip, whatever teenagers do, right? But when their song came on, Dancing Queen, that was my jam. That was my zone. That was my zen. That was my flow. I mean, nobody else existed. It was just me and my skates rolling to their tunes, and it was practically magical. So magical and so awe-inspiring and so uplifting that memory, well, it's a strong one for me, and it's not going away anytime soon. And the reason it really has stuck, it's sticky for me, is because the emotion it evoked in my memory. I know that song word for word, and that is my point on how music can be such a powerful tool for learning anything, not just the words to a song. Honestly, we are in an age where music is even more prevalent and accessible than ever. Think about the singing competitions on TV. Think about the accessibility to every song that was ever produced, ever. It's somewhere out there that you can have access to. And think about, I don't know, you're listening to this show on your schedule, on your time, not on somebody else's, at your leisure. That is amazing technology. And this is the power where technology can be used for good and technology can be used for learning. And when you are, say for example, watching one of those shows or a rip-off or whatever, and the judges are crying and you're feeling the music, you're absorbing the emotions that are going on right before your eyes, and it can bring you such great joy. It can also bring you to tears. It can relax you. And it can also get you dancing in the streets. So even Darwin believed that music's origin preceded language. Wow. Music is everywhere, and it doesn't need words to bring emotions to the surface. It doesn't need words. You feel it. You feel that sound. And what is it? What is it, after all, about music that stirs our souls? These are some questions to ask, and ask of yourself, because then you'll know what kind of gets you going, and what motivates you, and what really brings you joy. And because we live in such a musical world, we're very, I think, lucky. We don't have to know how to read music. We don't even have to know how to play music, because music impacts us all. And you definitely learned how to do the alphabet, singing it. You definitely know how to sing Happy Birthday in any language because of its tune. So I hope that makes sense, because you can also use music to remember information. It's not just for entertainment. Yeah. There are extensive papers and research on this, on the subject of music, and I found one in particular from Johns Hopkins University that has a really, I think they sum it up really well. Music is structural, mathematical, and architectural. It's based on relationships between one note and the next. You may not be aware of it, but your brain has to do a lot of computing to make sense of it. That is amazing. That is on their website, and I wanted to share that detail because that affirms how smart everyone is. We can all compute music. That's amazing. Okay, I mentioned one of my favorite ABBA songs and the memories their music brings to the surface. But I also want to mention that it's important to listen to different genres of music. And the reason behind that is it actually does exercise your brain. I think that's kind of neat because you're learning something new, even if it's just a new rhythm. It's important to exercise your cognitive functions, and it makes it kind of fun. It can make learning really fun, and also it's nice to be aware of everything that's out there because there are so many different genres of music. I think it's worth a go to try out something new. And back in the 60s, there was a song produced about the periodic table of elements. Yes, a chemistry song. And oh my goodness, I wish we would have had the technology to record things like that back then. But there was a fellow by the name of Tom Lehrer who did this jingle, per se, to Gilbert and Sullivan's opera from The Pirate of Penzance. And let's have a little listen.
There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen, and oxygen, and nitrogen, and rhenium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, germanium, and iron, americium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, lutetium, vanadium, and lanthanum, and osmium, and astatine, and radium, and gold, actinium, and indium, and gallium, and iodine, and thorium, and thulium, and thallium. There's yttrium, ytterbium, actinium, rubidium, and boron, gadolinium, niobium, iridium, and strontium, and silicon, and silver, and samarium, and bismuth, bromine, lithium, beryllium, and barium.
Isn't that amazing? I think he might have been one of the original rappers. And then I got thinking about learning and how on Happy Days back in the 70s, Potsy Anson Williams sang a song about learning the function of the heart. It's also a very catchy tune. Which brings us to today and what's happening on the music scene and what's happening with technology. You know, anybody out there, you have access to the internet, you can learn some amazing things through songs. And there's actually been some kind of cool channels popping up. Like, I don't know, I think the band Blackalicious, they have some really neat songs. One's called The Alphabet Aerobics. They literally go through the whole alphabet, different words. And yeah, it's aerobics, that's all right. And the chemical calisthenics, I mean, they are using their skills as musicians to also educate. So I really, really like that. And there's a comment online from one of their followers named Dirt, that's his handle, and he says it's like when Sesame Street meets rap. So gives that a visual, and look them out. They're pretty neat. Then there's YouTube channels like Whitney Avalon's Princess Rap Battles. You guys, if you've never seen it, I'm telling you, take a look, see. This channel, it's very entertaining, very well sung, and I believe they're also on Spotify and iTunes, etc. But they teach an interpretation of different stories, fairy tales, movies, and yeah, I'm gonna say my favorite part on this channel is the Medusa. So start digging deep, because these are just a few examples on the power of music and the melody and how you can use it as a learning tool. You have some examples within you, and once you start thinking about it, you're going to be like, yeah, how can I kind of mix things up a little bit? How can I use music to teach or learn or remember? It brings feelings and emotions to the surface, and that's really why you remember it. It really is. And elevates your mood a bit too, doesn't it? I mean, when you get your jam going, you get a little boost going. Even the Seven Dwarfs knew that one as they whistled while they worked. You go for a walk, you go for a run, you put on your exercise jam, you're going for a spin, you just, whatever you're doing, it actually gets you more active out there as well. So I think that's kind of another benefit of music, just on a sidebar. But we're talking really about how learning and memory, it creates this elevated emotion. And the neuroscience behind it is just quite fascinating, and it can be done in such a positive manner. So today's show is more about you to think about these things. How can you help your students learn better through music? How can you teach better through music? What lessons do you think can be, related to music? I've given you some really good examples between science and literature, just to name a few. So really dig in there, because online there is so much material, and it's free and it's fun, and way much more fun than reading a textbook. Yeah, I said that out loud. I love to read, don't get me wrong. But I remember more through music. And your brain gets a lot of exercise computing it. So if you want to learn something new, well, we obviously don't lack capacity when it comes to music. And there's some interesting research that's been done, I think in just the last 5-10 years, with more access to different brain scans, that we're able to identify that in our brains, in everyone's brains, we actually have one component that is called the musical memory area. And what's interesting, really interesting about this memory area is over time, as we age, it still receives the glucose necessary to function. Think about it. Music lasts longer in our memories than anything else. Even in Alzheimer's patients, dementia patients, amnesia patients, and I have living proof of this with my father, which I've spoken about on numerous occasions, but we won't go down that rabbit hole today. I just wanted to point out that the power of music and our memories and our emotions is one of those things that we keep. No one loses that. It has its own special area in the brain, and I think that's fascinating. So make sure you protect your brains, and you listen to music, and you get motivated and inspired, and find your jam. Think of ways to teach music, and you don't have to be able to read music in order to do this. Just get creative, because we're all born with a gift. We're all born with purpose. Life's journey is to hone and develop that gift, because you've got the music in you, and purpose changes within. Live well, my friends. I'm super excited to continue this journey with music, and next time it's all about culture, because yes, it's that time of year, Oktoberfest, and I am looking forward to it. We'll see you again.